If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can go ahead and type it in the chat box, and then we'll try our best to answer it as we present. But there's going to be a Q&A portion at the end where we'll answer the questions. Also, if you have any last-minute questions, we'll answer it then as well. If you have any questions after the presentation, you are able to reach us through email, and our emails are going to be presented in the slides as well. So let me go ahead and start the presentation. Okay, everyone. Once again, thank you for coming to the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program COVID-19 presentation. I'm Andrew, and we're also joined with the others on the Market Development Branch team, and we'll get introductions in a bit. Anissa, did you want to start?
You have housekeeping?
Yes.
Okay.
So once again, questions in the chat box. If you have any questions, we'll answer them at the end for Q&A. And the presentation is going to be recorded, posted on YouTube later, and make sure everyone's muted.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Anissa. I am the new Economic Development Specialist with the branch. And today you'll be hearing from Marcy, our Division Secretary, and Yukashi Smith, our Economic Development Specialist, and Sharon Hurd, our Market Development Branch Manager. And we all will be here during the whole presentation. We'll be able to assist and answer any questions you have in the chat box. And I will let Andrew continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anissa. So on today's agenda, we're going to be looking at the changes for Specialty Crop Block Grant Program Fiscal Year 21, the purpose and definitions, solicitation information, proposal submissions, Hawaii Compliance Express, insurance applications, forms. So we have a couple of videos prepared for you guys, and we're going to begin that now.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcy Klingen. I am the Secretary for the Agricultural Development Division. I am the person that will be compiling your contract documents together and routing them for review and signatures. To apply for this grant, you'll need to visit the Hawaii Awards and Notices Data System website, also known as HANS. This website displays notices and solicitations that are currently open within the state of Hawaii. When you get to this page, you'll need to enter a keyword like agriculture or specialty crop block grant program, and the results will show any solicitations currently open to the public relating to agriculture. From here, you'll be able to review and download the documents pertaining to that solicitation. All proposal submissions should be sent to the HDOA.addrfp@hawaii.gov email address. Any submissions sent to any other email address will not be accepted or reviewed. Any submissions after the due date and time will also not be accepted or reviewed. We go according to the date and time stamp on our end to see if it was received by the deadline. All contractors will need to be compliant or exempt on the Hawaii Compliance Express website, also known as HCE. You'll need a compliant or exempt status with the following departments before getting awarded: Hawaii Department of Taxation, Internal Revenue Service, Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and Hawaii Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. You need to be compliant at the time of review and award, usually about a week or two after the RFP due date. Your proposal will not be awarded if your status is not compliant, expired, or anything other than compliant on this HCE website. If your proposal gets awarded and funded, it is extremely important to be compliant throughout the contract process. The first payments and final payments require compliance. Keep in mind that during tax season, some contractors fall out of compliance due to tax issues. Please check your HCE status frequently. If you're currently not compliant or have not applied to HCE, it's recommended to apply now if you plan to apply for any of our grants. Another requirement is to have proper insurance coverages. The state of Hawaii requires each contractor to procure and maintain insurance coverage throughout the term of their contract. This includes automobile liability covering owned, non-owned, leased, and hired vehicles with a minimum of $1 million for bodily injury for each person, $1 million for bodily injury for each accident, and $1 million for property damage for each accident. If you are unsure if your insurance coverage meets these requirements, please have your insurance agent review the requirements, which will be sent to you upon notice of award, and it is also listed in the RFP. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Yukashi Smith, Economic Development Specialist. In this part, I'm going to talk about the required forms to submit for this grant. As Marcy mentioned earlier, all the forms can be downloaded on the SPO website. Once you found the forms and download them, I recommend you to store them on your computer so that you can access all the time. First, you must read the RFP entitled 2021 COVID Request for Proposals and Application Guideline. It explains everything you need to know about the proposal, including the deadline of the proposal submission, eligible entities, eligible projects, application requirements, etc. We are happy to answer any questions, but you may find answers in this RFP and it may be easier for you. Second, there are 3 forms you must submit by June 24, 2022 to apply for this grant. SCBGP FY21 COVID Project Template Final. This is the main application. Please take some time to fill out this application. You will be evaluated based on this application. Sharon will go over how to fill this out shortly. Along with this application, you must submit Exhibit A, Contact and Title Page, and Exhibit C, Endorsement Statement by June 24. Accurate contact information is important to process the application and the contract. The endorsement statement states that you acknowledge that you have a responsibility for the proposal and the project. The signature can be handwritten or typed by the computer. If you miss any of the 3 forms, your application will be ineligible and will not be reviewed. Lastly, you will also find 2 reports on the SPO website: Annual Performance Report and Final Performance Report. Those will be required to submit after you awarded the grant and conducted the project. We recommend that you read the reports for your future references. These are the forms you must read and submit for this grant. Next, Sharon will talk about how to fill out the application in detail.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sharon Hurd. I'm the Business Development Program Manager here at the Market Development Branch. My portion of the presentation is going to be pretty much to go over what's new with the Special Crop Block Grant Program 21 COVID, the RFP that's currently in place, talk to you about the Special Crop, what it is, better understanding of the Special Crop Block Grant Program, and then the meat of my presentation will be to go over every line of the project template. Hopefully there's been a lot of questions submitted and we can address them during this presentation, but while this presentation is going on, we'll be monitoring the chat box and we'll be responding to any questions that come in there. So again, thank you for tuning in, and here we go. Be cognizant that the performance measures are for 21. Those of you out there who have applied for 22 realize that 22 was totally different. Please remember these are the 21 performance measures. Transition to the Unique Entity ID, the SAM. Effective April 4th, DUNS numbers are no longer used as a method of identifying applicants. You have to get a UEI, SAM ID, and I've given you a couple links here. If you had a DUNS number previously, you were assigned a unique identity, and you'll find that by logging on to the websites there and look for your UEI. The purpose of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops. The reason that I put this slide up early is because should you call us, any one of us, and ask us, hey, can I do this? Can I make this change to my project? The answer will very likely be, does the change enhance the competitiveness of the specialty crop? And if it does, your answer is usually yes. Keep that in mind as you work through your project. Do not focus on other things. Keep your eye on the prize, which is enhancing the competitiveness of specialty crops, because that's the purpose. The federal government provided the funds for this specialty crop block grant program, COVID, to help us come up with projects that will help industries recover from the impacts of the pandemic. Give you an example. In the purpose section, for instance, if you were the floriculture industry, you could say that the dendrobium industry that used to rely on germplasm from Taiwan, when COVID hit, all that germplasm just stopped. There were no flights. Nothing could be done to provide germplasm for the dendrobium growers to keep propagating plants. The statistics for 2019 compared to 2020 showed a dramatic drop in the sales numbers for the dendrobium industry. They used those statistics to show that they need to recover. And they used some funding from ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, to then establish tissue culture labs around the state to grow our own germplasm so that we won't be so reliant on foreign assistance with tissue culture. It was a lot cheaper for them to go offshore. We all know that. They found out that by doing the tissue culture in state at the different tissue culture labs around the state, they had more control, less mutations. It was more of a successful project for them. So that's how you would use statistics and data to support your project. The definition of a specialty crop. The definition of a specialty crop is pretty much anything that's not big ag. It's everything that Hawaii grows, pretty much, okay? There is a detailed definition in the RFP. In the RFP, you'll find a list of what is a specialty crop, what is not a specialty crop. But it doesn't mean it's an exclusive list. If you have an item that matches this definition, fruits and vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture and nursery crops, including floriculture, edible plants must be cultivated or managed and used by people for food, medicinal purposes, and or aesthetic gratification to be considered specialty crops. Processed product shall consist of greater than 50% of the specialty crop by weight, exclusive of added water. A product that you're going to transition into a pet food. Is it eligible? No, it's not used by people for food. Cacao is an exception to this processed product's definition. Cacao has to be 70% of the product by weight. Those are the two exceptions that might impact the project that you're thinking of. And now on to the application. I hope that all of you out there have a copy of the project template in front of you as we go through each section. Okay. So the project title, this should tell us what the project is about. Keep it to less than 15 words. This is how the project will be identified in all the USDA publications. They'll post it on the website using this title. The duration of the project has to be less than 2 years and completed by June 25th, 2025. There's a start date and an end date. Please note that that is negotiable. It's flexible, but your project has to finish within 24 months or by June 30th, 2025. Project partner and summary. This section is important. If you mention in your proposal, I'm going to be working with CTAR. I'm going to be working with X company. They should be listed as a project partner and what they specifically will be doing for your project to enhance the competitiveness of the specialty crop. And more importantly, project partners should have a letter of support included, confirming their commitment to do what you say they're going to be doing for the project. Project purpose. This is your project. Why are you even starting it? What is the purpose of your project? Take some time to explain it. It's also going to be the section of the template that we will pay most attention to for the rest of the project to see if the rest of your project supports your purpose. For instance, you have to provide a list of objectives. Do your objectives support the purpose? We'll look at that. We suggest that you have no more than 3 objectives. 1 objective, 2 objectives is recommended because every objective you have will need to have an associated outcome, an associated indicator, and you have to tell us what you're going to do to meet the indicators, outcomes, objectives that support the purpose. Again, 1 objective, 2 objectives is fine. If you feel strongly that you need to have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 objectives. Of course, you're welcome to do that. But as we go through the template, you'll see that it only increases the work that you have to do. Project beneficiaries. This is a number, okay? It is the number of people that will directly benefit from your project. If you have a project to enhance the competitiveness of natural honey, Hawaiian natural honey, the project beneficiaries should not be the state of Hawaii. It should not be a wide number. It should be a specific number. 500 beekeepers, 200 apiaries, a very specific number. And you enter it right there on that line there. Does this project directly benefit socially disadvantaged farmers? Yes or no? Does this project directly benefit beginning farmers? Yes or no? The definition of a socially disadvantaged farmer is a farmer or rancher who is a member of a socially disadvantaged group. A socially disadvantaged group is a group whose members have been subject to discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, age, disability, and where applicable, sex, marital status, familial status, parental status, religion, sexual orientation, genetic information, political beliefs, reprisal, or because all or a part of the individual's income is derived from any public assistance program. Definition of a beginning farmer: an individual or entity who has not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years and substantially participates in the operation. The next part of the project template is that you check the box that says you are enhancing specialty crops. Projects will be returned so that you can check that box. We shouldn't be checking it for you because it says, I confirm that this project enhances the competitiveness of specialty crops in accordance with the definition. So that is a box that you need to check if your product indeed does enhance specialty crops. This next section, the USDA wants to know if this is a continuation of a previous project. It is important. And if it is a continuation, you have to describe how this project differs from the other. You have to provide a summary of what happened with the other project. The USDA wants to know, is this a continuation of a previous project? It does not hinder your application. It doesn't enhance your application. They just want to know. Describe how this project will differ from and build on the previous efforts. Provide a summary, 3 to 5 sentences, of the outcomes of the previous efforts, and provide lessons learned on potential project improvements. The project template continues with the highlighted section. Describe the likelihood of the project becoming self-sustaining and not indefinitely dependent on grant funds. Many proposals come in without this section filled out. This section requires a description. And what does it mean? It means, are you going to be asking for funding of this project indefinitely? Or is there a mechanism in place that eventually the project will take care of itself? It'll be less dependent on government assistance. Okay, other support from federal or state grant programs, need to fill that out. If your project is receiving or will potentially receive funds from other federal or state grant, they want to know which ones and how much and how is it different. External project support, this means who out there is supporting your project but is not really a partner. Is it someone that is providing meeting space? Is it someone that's providing information? Just describe who these people are. Is it a farmer? Is it an agency? And if possible, they should be able to give you a letter of support as well on why they're supporting your project. The expected measurable outcomes. This is a very important part of the project template. It must be filled out, and you must use the Special Crop Block Grant Program 21 performance indicators. The outcomes are listed here, and the indicators are through the link that you see there, Special Crop Block Grant Program Performance Measures. You cannot change a single word in the outcomes or indicators. Again, no changes to the wording of the outcome or the indicators. There are some states that if you make a change to these outcomes or indicators, your application is disqualified. Okay, so do not make the change. Data collection to report outcomes and indicators. The idea is the data collection is going to provide evidence that your indicator was met. They want to know, how are you going to collect that data? Just for the record, surveys is a very weak vehicle for data collection. The reason is, of the many proposals that have relied on surveys in the past, I'd say less than 25% have been successful in providing the data to support the indicator through a survey. The most successful has been where, at the end of the presentation or workshop or event, in order to receive a piece of promotional material, you do turn in your survey and exchange it for the item. Surveys are weak. We will accept surveys if that's the only vehicle, but try to come up with something else, substantiate with a photo. Each indicator will require a data collection method because the data collection supports that you've achieved your indicator. The indicator supports that you've met your outcome. Your outcome supports your objective, which supports the purpose. If your data collection is strong, you'll have less issues with achieving the purpose of your project. The USDA reviewer has asked for stronger data collection quite often. So data collection is a very important part of your proposal. Project timeline, action, and work plan. This helps us help you and helps you come up with the plan for your project. We're breaking it down by objective. So you have objective 1. You write the objective in the project template, and then you tell us what you're going to do to achieve that objective. Each activity, and who is it going to be performed by, and when is it going to be done. So to an earlier comment, if you have 5 objectives, you can have 5 action plans, 5 ways to achieve the objective. This would be detailed. And this is not a gotcha part of the project. What it does is that in your midterm report, we can compare your midterm report to the timeline, and we can say, hey, this person's way ahead. They're doing really well. Or, if due to some weather event, the project is behind and they're not able to achieve or thought that they would be this far along in their project. We can then ask for an extension. We can then say, hey, do you think you want to extend the time of performance? And we can try to help, because what the purpose is, we want you to have a successful project. And this timeline helps us decide, helps us decide if you're going to need more time. Another caution is when the name and the title is the same for every objective, and there's just one name and title, that weakens your proposal, because it's what we call a one-off. If that person becomes ill or has a change of heart or is not able to continue with the project, this project is doomed. There's really nothing else we can do except to terminate. So strengthen your proposal by adding a number of people who will perform the duties, because it means that while there's one project manager, there's a wide cadre of people to support the project. All right, the next section is the budget. There's a lot of talk about what's the most important part, and while every part of this project template is important, a lot of scrutiny will focus on this budget narrative section. Again, do not change any of the expense categories: personnel, fringe, travel, equipment, supplies, contractual, other. They have to remain the same, because that's the template that we report to the higher-ups, to the USDA. Some people will change it. Please don't, okay? Then, over to the right, you show the amount of funds that you're requesting for that category. Your direct cost subtotal. Indirect costs will not be allowed. The maximum for the Special Crop Block Grant Program is 8%, and the state takes that. We take the entire 8% for our administering of this project. It's a grant, okay? Personnel. Personnel is who you employ to do the work for you. The personnel is employed by the applicant. We're asking that you tell us their name, their title, the level of support, and the funds requested. Then you justify that personnel. Each person that's being paid by the federal funds, what is their role? What are they expected to do? Then, should your company or agency have fringe benefits, that's fine. Some associations have a 40% fringe, that's fine. Just name, title, fringe benefit rate, and the funds requested. A lot of proposals will come in and just say trip destination to Molokai. But you have to really detail it. How much is the airfare, car rental, hotel, meals, mileage? Mileage is 58.5 cents per mile. This is important to fill out every trip that you're going to take. What's the idea? If you don't know what trips you're going to take, then why should the government support that, right? Your project has to know in advance what kind of travel will be involved. If it's a mainland trip, all we need is the template filled out, justification. If it's an international trip, that's allowed, but we need pre-approval. So those will have to be submitted on the proposal. We'll have to call the USDA, get approval for that, and then we can get back to you should your proposal be selected for an award. One important thing about travel, when you use federal funds, the airlines that you travel on has to be part of the Fly America Act. They should be U.S. carriers. Can't use foreign carriers. Travel justification. If you have 10 trips in your travel template, every one of them needs to have an approximate date of travel and justifying why you're taking the trip. Trip 1 should match the template. Trip 2, again, on and on. Then there's a little box there that says you're conforming with your travel policy. If you have travel, you should check that box. Equipment is the next category that we expect to have detailed information. Equipment is an item that is of a value of $5,000 or higher. So equipment is defined by the retail cost of one unit. If it's $5,000 and higher, what you have there is a piece of equipment. If it's not, then it falls under supplies. Now, why is equipment a difficult category? Because if it's $5,000 or more, that piece of equipment belongs to the state. It doesn't belong to you. You've spent federal money. You have to take care of the piece of equipment. You have to insure it. You have to make sure your staff is properly trained on it. And at the end of the project, the equipment, if its fair market appraised value is less than $5,000, there's disposition for it where you can purchase it, but it's a pretty long and lengthy process, and we can get into it if you do have a piece of equipment that you absolutely need for this project. And a lot of people do have equipment that they need. Equipment 1, equipment 2, equipment 3, you have to justify why you need it. Now, should you rent it, you would show it under rental, and if you look up above it, it says rental of general purpose equipment must be described in this section. So just tell us why you need it, and we'll be satisfied with that. Supplies. Supplies is a section that a lot of applicants feel is not worthy, you might say, of a level of detail, but it is absolutely. It's most of the questions we get back from the USDA are, we need more information in the supply section and why that piece of supply needs to be purchased for this project. So if you put in there, under item description, if you put tools, that's not good enough. They want to know what tools. Is it a shovel? Is it a wheelbarrow? Is it a raised garden bed? What is it? Detail it. Item description. How much does each unit cost? Well, I'm going to buy 5 wheelbarrows. How much is one wheelbarrow? Right per unit, number that you need, when are you acquiring it, and the total number of funds requested. Again, you can't bunch your items. What's common is irrigation supplies. That has come back. What irrigation supplies are you using? Drip hose? What do you need? And then the per unit cost, number of units purchased, and the supplies justification. They want a justification for every item that you're buying. Why? We have to be good stewards of federal money. This is taxpayer money we're using, so they want to know that it's well spent. Contractual consultant. This is any agency, association, person that you don't pay as your staff, but you hire, works for hire. If you rent a hall for a meeting, you sign a contract for that, that's contractual. If you hire somebody to clear land and you write a contract for that, that's contractual. You would write the name of the person or the name of the organization, hourly rate or flat rate. I recommend flat rate. If you say hourly, you have to then keep track of the hours and what was done during that period of time when that contractor worked. But if you say the flat rate to construct a fence. When the job is done, the work for hire has been paid for. Again, justification, 1, 2, 3. Now, in the highlighted there, the maximum per hour that you can charge, that the contractor can charge, is listed under the GS pay scale. Right now, it's about $89, step 15 per hour. If you feel your contractor needs to be paid more than that, whatever's on the list, you have to justify why is that person the only person that can perform the work. Contractor, consultant 1, 2, 3, on and on. The box there conforming with your procurement standards is basically, how did you decide to choose this contractor? they're trying to avoid the appearance of impropriety in that you're using someone that's not qualified for the job, but just you're using them because, you know, they did a good job before. They know what they're doing, and that's the kind of assurance that this checkbox is asking you for. Not just because they're your neighbor and they're, you know, a nice guy. You need to say how you chose this contractor. The other section, it's kind of like a catch-all, but do not minimize the importance of the other section. You can't say printing. They want to know how many things you're going to print, the per unit cost, number of units, when are you going to do it, and on and on and on. What falls in other? Sometimes you'll find shipping, sometimes you'll find postage, sometimes you might find a rental piece, like you're going to rent a hall, something like that, but it does fall under other. Program income. It's not a bad thing to generate income. You know, it's a fine, if your special crop block grant program project generates income, that's fine. It's just that that income needs to be reinvested into the project during the time of performance of your project. If you're going to be doing a project where you generate, you know, a lot of a particular crop, let's say tomatoes. Tomatoes are known to have bumper crop seasons. And if you decide then to sell it at a farmer's market, that's fine. But you have to reinvest that money back into the project during the time of the project. After the project, you can do whatever you will with the funding. The project is over. And if you are not generating program income, we ask that you clearly state no income will be generated from this project. Matching funds. The RFP that we issue asks that if you have some matching funds, that shows that you have some quote-unquote skin in the game. By state statute, they like projects where the applicant who is receiving public funds put something on it, some kind of a matching fund amount. This section, however, is going to be found at the end of the project template, as the USDA federal agency does not want to see this part of the project because they don't monitor it at all. We do at the state level. Some notes for the budget narrative, kind of like a recap of what might be helpful. Personnel are staff that are employed by the applicant. Mileage reimbursement for 2022 is 58.5 cents a mile. Show airfare, car rental, hotel, meals, mileage as separate cost items. Airfare is highlighted. It matches. If it's inner island, be consistent. $200 round trip is the suggested amount. We all know that it depends when you're traveling, what island you're traveling to, but it is not suggested. What is discouraged is if one airfare round trip to one inner island for one inner island trip is $500 and the next one is $150. That is red flag. So be consistent. Airfare is $200 round trip. Car rental, we know car rental fluctuates, especially under the COVID period where car rentals could be thousands of dollars a day. We're asking that you show car rental as $100 per day, including gas. The next slide is for per diem for hotel and meals. We're going to be using the Department of Defense per diem list, and that would be on the next slide. So equipment. Equipment reminder is for a single item of value, $5,000 or over. Rentals are shown under the equipment category. Items shown in supplies must include per unit cost, number of units purchased, with justification explaining why that item was purchased. Contractors are service providers not employed by the applicant. If a contract is signed, that service is likely a contractor. Other is shipping, stamps, printing, and items not covered in the above categories. Program income earned during the time of performance of the project must be reinvested into the project, and keep your matching funds separate. The per diem that is allowed for hotels and meals. If you need help with this, you can give us a call or email, but it is the maximum that the federal agency will allow for hotels in these areas. Things to do before you work on your project template. Read the entire RFP. Decide on the purpose of your proposed project. Determine the objectives to achieve that purpose. Do not change the wording of the performance measures. Select the outcomes that support the objectives. Select the associated indicators to quantify or convince that the outcome has been met. Describe in detail the data collection methods that will prove that indicators were quantified. So if you go back up, data collection proves that the indicator was met. The indicator convinces us that the outcome was met. The outcome supports that the objective was met. The objective tells us that the purpose was achieved. So the purpose is the reason for the project. Think about what your project purpose is, because that's what the entire project will be based on.
Thanks for staying with us to this point. The point of the presentation of going through every part of the template was to take the mystery out of applying, and hopefully now you feel more confident. If you had a question submitted earlier, hopefully we addressed it. If not, go ahead and send us a question via email, yukashimsmith@hawaii.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. This is where we're going to open up the Q&A portion. If you wanted to take a snapshot of all of our contact right there, that's our contact. And then I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can open up the floor. Cool. Thank you so much, everyone. It looks like there's not too many questions in the chat box. If anyone had any other questions,
I have a question. Sharon mentioned limits of between 10,000 and 40,000 for the request. Was that correct for the whole thing, right?
Oh, no, good question. Now the award, the COVID-19 award, was a pretty nice sum for Hawaii. It was $635,000. With all the administration indirect costs that we do, we're going to offer $500,000 plus. So if you have a $40,000 project, we're probably able to do 12 of them. Is that the question?
So the total of the expected costs should add up to less than 40,000, right?
40,000 is the max. If your project is 50,000, you're covering the other 10.
Okay, got it.
With one exception, Dave. If your project is of extraordinary statewide benefit, the panel will consider higher amounts. I did some research because the question came up from a previous webinar presentation. In all the years that we've done this, maybe in the past 10 years, maybe 8 proposals have been awarded more than $40,000, but never more than 60. And they've been, for instance, to get the Hawaii Seagoers Network Lab started. And I think all of us on this call will agree that the HSGN has been amazing. It did have extraordinary statewide benefit, especially during COVID. So there's been cases, but very rarely has there been a award greater than 40,000. It's so as to spread the money around. You know, it's not a lot of money, but it's good enough to proof of concept to go for bigger money, $1 million projects.
Is there extra points for innovation, even though there may be some risk?
We'd have to see the project, but I don't think there's an outcome that allows for innovation. If you find an outcome that meets your particular idea, that would be the outcome to choose, and then choose the indicator that proves that outcome, and then collect your data to prove that your innovation was successful or not. You know, not every project is successful. What we're looking for is new technologies, so you can fit in there. Your innovation can fit in there.
Okay, but with the new technology, there would be some risk that it doesn't work out as planned, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, take a look now at your outcomes. That's on your RFP that hopefully you have in front of you. You'll find one in there that allows for innovation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a question in the chat.
I have a question.
You can go ahead.
I have a question. You mentioned, I think Sharon mentioned that for the outcomes, you don't change the wording, like you wouldn't put your specialty crop into the word specialty crop. You do it like verbatim, word for word for the outcome. Is that the same for the objectives and the purpose? Or
the objective and purpose are yours.
Would you put, instead of saying enhance, specialty crop, it said enhance?
The purpose is yours. The objectives is yours. The outcomes and indicators cannot be changed.
Okay, so the outcome and indicators cannot be changed, but the other ones can be changed. Okay. Right.
Okay, Andrew, I can see that. From Max, when considering matching funds, should they be included in the project total? No. Good question, Max. They're separate in the end. USDA does not want to see anything about matching funds. That's a local concern. Well, I asked them why, and they said, well, if we know about the matching funds, then we have to monitor it. You know, we have to care about it. So no, that's just for us. And Marcy, everybody saw Marcy's comment? Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, Andrew, let me just say this. Sorry for we have been trying our best to have a highly totally prepared, and the technical difficulties keep following us around. So sorry about that. We should have this up though. We can clean it up before we post it.
I have a question.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi. So if I guess I don't have a question now, but if I did, is there a point of contact? Who could maybe my wife and I email if there was a question along the way within the next few weeks? Like, what would be the best point of contact?
Just email for Sharon Hurd.
Would it be you, Sharon?
Yukashi? In the RFP, go ahead, Yukashi, you're muted.
Yeah, any questions about this grant, please email me. My contact information you can find. Yes.
So we have maybe a couple minutes only. I'm going to ask Matthew, okay, what is your current thought? What is the proposal that you're thinking of? Do you have any idea?
My wife and I grow vanilla here in Waimanalo. And one thing that's stopping us from really progressing would be a dehydrator. One thing here in Hawaii is you cannot dry the vanilla and cure it in the traditional way like you could in Mexico, because the season here right after harvest is rainy, and so you cannot sun dry it. So one thing that we want is we would like to be able to use a dehydrator and a sweating method on a larger scale in order for us to be able to produce a quality product. And that's one thing that's kind of stopping us from operating at the scale we'd want to operate at. We've found a quality product, but it's not going to be enough.
Okay, Matthew, is there such a thing as a vanilla co-op or a vanilla association in the state?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Because when you read your RFP, one of the top things is a project cannot benefit one individual or one organization.
And we thought about that. One thing that we do have is we're here on an organic farm that grows turmeric and ginger, and they would need a commercial size dehydrator too to make turmeric extract or powder. And
they're running the same problem.
They're running into the same problems we are. So we would collaborate with them.
You cannot use public funds to benefit a private individual. So how would you make your project benefit a wider audience?
Gotcha. Well, there's a lot of ways. Really what we'd want to do is make vanilla and our method of drying and curing a way for a lot more farmers in Hawaii to get into vanilla.
And how would they find out about it?
Well,
we're doing
success.
There's been doing like farm tours on the property as well.
Videos, you can invite people, you can go to class, you can go to conferences, you can something like to make it wide benefit.
Okay, understood.
Most of the way you just from hearing it, I think Yukashi will agree. Benefits a very small sector, and public funds cannot be used to support public and private individuals. Has to have a public benefit.
Understood. Okay.
So Heather, what are you thinking about? Unmute.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the next phase of our local Christmas tree.
Oh, Heather, sorry, maybe you can put it in the chat.
So we're going to
Can't hear
be
you.
growing some potted Christmas trees.
Sorry. Okay. Heather, sorry, can't hear you. It's garbled. Maybe I'm garbled. I don't know.
Sorry, Sharon, we do have other questions.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is there a requirement to have been a business prior to March 2020?
Is there a requirement to have been in business? No. No, where did that come from?
The chat box.
No, I know, but I wonder where the question came from. Is this something I said? No, not at all.
Probably because it's for COVID.
Oh, I see. No, if you're going to make a COVID related project, yeah, you do need to have a problem before March 2020, but not a requirement to be in business. All you have to do is enhance the competitiveness of the specialty crop. Thank you, Andrew. And I do see the next question from someone that was on the PBS Insights. Gabriel.
Yes, hello.
Hi, so the profits from the target crop must be reinvested, but is that only for, yes. Yes, anything realized within the time of performance that you earned with public funds, you have to reinvest into the public funded project.
Okay, and if, like, you can hear me? So if, so I'm scheming up a banana project, and if the plants themselves are planted, and hopefully we get some yield data and we get our metrics, but like if say if a round was planted during the project, but then its harvest is afterwards, then that wouldn't count?
Wouldn't count.
Okay.
It's only during the time. And why did I not guess your project was about bananas?
Oh.
Okay, I guess
thank you.
It.
All right. Any last questions? I guess before we end, let me share the screen one more time to show the our contact information here. Great. So if everyone can write that down. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions after, you can reach us at any of these emails. Other than that, a recording of this Zoom, a fixed up recording of this Zoom, I'll edit it and make it all pretty and nice. And then I'll post it on YouTube after. And yeah, if that is all.
What will it be called?
It's gonna be on the Hawaii Department of Agriculture's YouTube channel. Okay. So you can Google the YouTube channel. If anyone wants to reach out to one of us to get the link, it'll probably be up maybe tomorrow or the day after.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you everyone for attending this meeting today. It was great seeing everyone, hearing about your projects, and we look forward to receiving your proposals. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you.